Dude, it's funny how the pandemic turned into what was my favorite episode of the bunch. I'm a poker kid, right? I was one of those dudes who thought about dropping out of college at one point because I used to play on Poker Stars and Full Tilt. And I always liked playing poker, and then it was like around that online boom, right? All these websites coming out left and right. And I put $250 gift card into Poker Stars, and I was playing $20 sit and goes.
What year was this?
2011, right before the whole Black Monday thing. And within those 4 months, I got the $250. I turned it into over $11,000. I was playing $20 sit and goes. So for those that don't know, it's a 10-man game. Very quick. They're done in about 45 minutes to an hour. Texas Hold'em, top 3 win money. First place used to be like $140 or whatever it was. And then I was just playing those. And then, 1 or 2 weeks, I've gotten my bankroll up to $500. I'm like, oh, all right, there's something here. Before you know it, I play one of those like satellite tournaments. I want to seed into a bigger contest. It's very similar to DraftKings and FanDuel. That's why you see a lot of these online poker dudes have transitioned into the daily fantasy stuff. So David, I'm over there before you know it. I have $2,000 in my account. It's like middle of January. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Am I like the next Phil Hellmuth? Am I Phil Ivey? Like, before you know it, it's up to $5K. I show my dad. I'm like, yo, I think I'm gonna drop out of college and just do this. He's like, no, let's not get crazy, like, see how far you could take it. Around my birthday, March 11th, I have over $10,000 on the account. Not even thinking like, oh, let's withdraw it. I'm just like, all right, I'm playing with house money now at this point. And then I just go to open my account one day, like every other online poker dude, and bam, seized.
Yeah.
Black Monday.
Did you ever get it back?
Nope.
They got it all? They didn't give you any of it back?
Nothing.
It should have been on Full Tilt. They all got repaid eventually. It took them years, I think.
Yeah. Maybe if I was older at the time, I probably would have definitely stuck to it.
Did that just crush your poker? You're done with poker at that point?
The whole online thing, dude, even my grades are starting to fall because I was in class just like playing. I'd have them be in lecture hall and just like BSing, and that's all I thought about was poker. I was even playing a lot throughout neighborhood games, casinos.
Yeah, right.
One time I drove out to Sands, I think in Philly or in Pennsylvania. And I went to a $250 tournament, sat down, second hand I was out. Rebought, 3 hands after that, out again. So I spent about $500 and 8-hour commute for about 4.5 minutes at a poker table.
Yeah.
The trials and tribulations of playing poker.
Yeah, totally. And, it's wild because, so many people experienced that, right, where they ran up a big number and then said, this is just what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Right? And some people were actually able to do it. Phil, in his story, he kept running it up and it never stopped. And he did, make millions and, was very successful. A lot of people, though, didn't. And they ran up a big number and then they ran it right back down, right, because there's variance and people don't account for that. And they misjudge what's the long run, And but I think that with daily fantasy or poker, or even with a lot of what we see now with sports betting in new markets where there's a lot of bonuses, is that people who are kind of early to market with this stuff, the early adopters of this stuff, suck up a lot of easy money, right? Like it was like that with online poker too. In the early days of online poker, it was just like free money. There were so many people that didn't know how to play. There was so much rake back and bonuses and stuff you could get that just knowing a little bit could make you, truckloads of money. And then but it gets tougher, right? And you can't just rest on your laurels. You have to keep getting better and better and keep up with it. And that's what the Phil story is kind of about, is about how technology was changing the game in ways that was difficult for him to keep up with because of poker solvers and things like that. And I thought that was one of the interesting kind of dynamics in his story was how he was once kind of a young upstart that took the game away from an older generation, and then it didn't take long for him to find himself in the older generation because of how quickly technology moves things now, right? Like poker was the same game from 1970 till 2003. It was the same game. and nobody had reinvented it. The way to play, the like optimal way to play, the sort of accepted common wisdom about poker was unchanged for like 30 years. And then when these guys come in 2003 and start changing the game and
the Chris Moneymaker era.
Yeah, during that, but also the online era, really.
Right, yeah, that's true.
You know, and the guys who were playing on the internet were playing so many more hands than the older generation was ever able to, playing over the table. So like the idea that you could play 1,000,000 hands of poker was wild, right?
Yeah.
It would take a lifetime to play that many hands, but these kids were doing 10 tables at a time. So they were getting good really, really fast. So technology was enabling this like speeding the speeding up of like the of the understanding of the game. And what's weird about Phil is by the time he's in his 30s, now he's in the older generation. You know, he took it away from these guys who were like in their 70s or whatever, and now he's finding that like there's an even younger generation coming in who have changed the game in ways that they're going to dominate him unless he can adapt. And that's kind of true about a lot of things, right? Like Daily Fantasy was the same thing where like, you know, people who got in on Daily Fantasy early made a lot of easy money, and they were like, oh, there's so many people who don't know what they're doing. You know, it's so easy to make money here. But quickly the cream separated from the, you know, the crop, with that top group of Daily Fantasy players, because there's like an even smaller number of winners who like just were able to like create, you know, they were able to create models and programs and stuff.
Excel sheets,
yeah. And they were able to like have zillions of accounts and like and they would buy up all the different entries, you know. So the top like 1% of the top 10% took all the money out and made it really hard for anybody to beat it. And so that kind of is just how technology works now, is that like you get in early, you can make some easy money, but it's not going to stay. You know, it's not going to stay unless you can like really hustle hard and be at that sort of real right on the edge, right on the cutting edge. If you're not there, you're eventually going to get beat by the people who are. And that's true in a lot of gambling. I mean, it's like that in like horse racing. It's like that with sports gambling. I mean, you know, there's just a very small number of people that are on that edge who are winning so much. And who are they winning it from? They're winning it from the rest of us, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I want to go back a little bit to the Chris Moneymaker, because I think he might be, if you were building a Mount Rushmore in poker and in gambling, I feel as if his face needs to be on there for the doors that he opened up. And is it fair to say that he was just your average Joe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Enters online, wins a ticket to the main event, World Series of Poker main event, which is the biggest prize pool, first place prize, and he ends up taking it down. Yeah. And then when you dive into his story, I think he was like a teacher or an accountant.
He was an accountant.
Accountant. And then everybody's like, oh, I'm an accountant. I'm a sanitation guy. I could enter this, hypothetically speaking, and win it. And then that opened up the door to a lot of new people coming through the floodgates of the poker era. Yeah. And then you had all the online stuff too. And you mentioned something in passing before, which I couldn't agree with you more, that if you're a dude who grew up in the era of, you know, in the 70s, 80s, and it's now 2010, you're sitting across the table from me, and I'm a 21-year-old kid, and I've been playing on Full Tilt and Poker Stars. Dude, I have 8 to 10 screens up. I had 10 screens up at one time. There was a point where I was taking my mom's laptop just to have another laptop along with mine. And I'm playing all these hands, and I've seen tens of thousands of hands daily. Where if you're going to a traditional game at a casino, what's the most you think in a 5-hour span you would see?
You're gonna see probably 25 to 35 hands in an hour.
Yeah.
At that one table. So if you play 5 hours, you're going to see 150 hands. If you're lucky, you'll probably see less because of dealer changes and things like that.
Yeah. And
you see 100 hands.
Yeah, and then before you know it, I also think the evolution of the hands that people were playing changed as well.
Of course.